Howdy, welcome back. I'm Steven and this is FWP Reviews. Today is part 2 of the Michael Mann May movie special, or MMS for short. That doesn't work, we can't leave that in. Last week we took a look at one of the best crime saga movies ever made, Heat. If you missed the video, be sure to go and check it out because this video won't make any sense without it. Okay, well that's not actually true. On to today's video. Today we're talking about one of the best crime thriller movies ever made, Collateral. A mild-mannered taxi driver who dreams of owning his own limo company, Max, played by Jamie Foxx, agrees to be a private cab for the slick and charismatic Vincent, played by Tom Cruise. When it is revealed that Vincent is actually a merciless hitman, Max is along for the ride and has no real say in what's to come. Don't get caught in the crossfire. Let's take a look at Collateral. The decision to shoot this film on digital as opposed to film at the time was a controversial one. Personally, I think that Michael Mann ended up making the correct decision as he so often does. The impressive technical work behind the sets, action, and cinematography all helped to create the same LA atmosphere that we saw in Heat. This is a different side of LA that we're getting to see in this movie. We're seeing the abandoned streets of the early morning hours, and the setting elicits this sort of loneliness that we see in a lot of Michael Mann's work. One of the most continually impressive things about Michael Mann is his ability to create atmosphere as well as his devoted and methodical filmmaking style. The skill that is present when he is at the helm is always apparent in the final product. Mann knows how to write two characters and pit them together almost perfectly in a fiery and brilliant way. This rivalry isn't as deep or as impressive as the one we see in Heat, but this is a completely different kind of rivalry and it's still done almost perfectly. This is a rivalry where we see one person almost always has the upper hand and there's an underdog that we're allowed to root for. And this is opposed to how we see in Heat. It's two equally skilled people on the exact opposite side of the law, and it's extremely impressive in that movie. And for this movie, the one-sided rivalry works really well in the writing and the story. Of course, like I mentioned, our protagonist is the underdog almost all the way through, and in true Michael Mann fashion, we really don't know if he's going to be able to pull off anything and come out on top. This different kind of rivalry is of course helped by Jamie Foxx's and Tom Cruise's excellent performances. Jamie Foxx is almost perfectly able to display this duality of longing for these greater things, but being scared to take the step to get those greater things. It plays out really well against the merciless and heartless character of Tom Cruise, who always does what he wants and takes what he wants when he wants it. This is the only movie I've ever seen Tom Cruise play a villainous role, and all I really have to say is, where's the next one? It has been far too long to have only seen Tom Cruise play the villain once. Tom, you're a great hero, but we need more of this. His performance is cold, calculated, and extremely well executed. He drops these perfect pieces of dialogue and advice on Max in one of the best uses of dramatic irony I've ever seen. The excellent writing helps bring to the forefront the excellent dramatic irony that is present throughout almost all of this movie. Much like his directorial style, Michael Mann's writing style is also methodical and extremely well thought out. I was surprised how few holes I was able to find in the narrative rewatching it several times through. We get to see several different angles from different perspectives on certain events that happen in the movie that are sort of beacons in the movie, and seeing how each character sees those helps keep the viewer hooked really well. The story is somewhat circular and it almost perfectly reflects how Max's character lives this sort of circular life where the next day leads into the next. Day after day after day, we see how his routine is just a big circle that just keeps going, and he's caught in this cycle that he so desperately wants to escape but is so scared to try and escape because he's afraid he'll just fail. It's able to put this at the forefront that Max needs to move on or risk being stuck forever while also being amidst this sort of crazy and chaotic night. Themes in Collateral are plentiful and very strong. This movie does a lot of focusing on the right thing versus preserving oneself, bravery, leaps of faith, and many more things. The strongest thematic decisions we see made in this movie are how Vincent, even though he's this sort of evil asshole character who really has no good intentions for Max, ultimately is what helps Max push to become something greater in the movie as well as what he wanted to be in real life. Seeing how much Max can actually learn from Vincent, despite Vincent obviously being a ruthless, amoral assassin. In the end, we get to see this really effective and thought out turning point when Annie's character comes under threat. We see Max able to finally take that step after this long and arduous night he's been on. In the end, we see that Max is able to learn and to be able to take down Vincent because of Vincent's confidence and relentless, methodical nature. By the end, Vincent underestimates Max, much like Max has underestimated himself his whole life. The tokens of knowledge and advice we see Vincent drop on Max ultimately come back to bite him in the butt because it's seen as more of taunting during the movie, because we know after this night of crime, Max is going to kill himself. And this use of dramatic irony allows us to know that Vincent's character is actually helping Max, and neither of them really know what's happening. Max doesn't think he's going to make it out alive like he rightfully probably should, and Vincent also doesn't think he's going to make it out alive, which is why he feels like he can taunt Max throughout the whole night. This allows the ending of the movie to be extremely satisfying for the viewer. Why is this movie essential? To put it simply, Tom Cruise plays a villain. To put it more complicated, to give you more content, it's one of the most exciting and tense movies I've ever seen. It's a masterclass in filmmaking, including Michael Mann's writing and directing, as well as Jamie Foxx's and Tom Cruise's electrical performances. The well thought out narrative allows for this use of dramatic irony in one of the most fiery and interesting way possible. The well thought out narrative allows for this use of dramatic irony that is intriguing to the viewer all the way through the movie. I was continually impressed by how this narrative was able to weave all of these smaller and bigger storylines together at certain beacon points of the narrative where everybody kind of gets to take their take on what has happened in this situation, whether or not they're there before, in the middle, or after. This movie captures the attention of the viewer extremely well all the way throughout. This movie has a lot of exciting and action-packed moments, but there are a lot of slower moments packed into the movie as well. This movie, like any good slow moment in a thriller, these moments lure the viewer into a false sense of security. Eventually, because of this, the viewer is left waiting constantly for what the next big thriller-esque moment is going to be. A lot of the slower moments are where Tom Cruise shines and allows him to hook the viewer in even more. These slower moments are where Tom Cruise, in the ironic fashion he does, sort of gives these pieces of advice to Max that ultimately help him defeat Vincent in the end, but at the time it just feels like Vincent's trying to bait him and to tease him, sort of. The way we see these characters bounce off of each other is invigorating in this ultimate, unbalanced, one-sided rivalry. The best part of this movie is the part where the coyote runs across the highway and Audio Slave just starts blaring. Not only does this have multiple interpretations for what it means for the thematics of the movie, it also wasn't planned. It's almost like the stars aligned for this moment to happen, and ultimately this got added into the movie because this coyote just ran across the highway though while they were filming. And anybody who's seen this movie probably knows about this. I guess it's really a testament to the unpredictability of the movie, because we never really know what's going to happen, and that's a part of the mystery and the intrigue of the movie. It kind of just floors you, much like the shot where we see Vincent and Max sitting in the taxi as they look kind of floored and astonished that this coyote is coming through as well. And there's a lot of different interpretations, but I think the most important and essential part of it is that the chance of it and just seeing that appear in the movie is something that just gives me chills every time I see it. With that, let's wrap this video up. This is part 2 and the end of the Michael Mann May movie special. The first video of the month will of course be my look back at all of the new movies I saw during the month of May. Following that, I've got some big things planned and I'm excited for y'all to see. Until next time, follow my Instagram at FWPReviews100 for daily written reviews about the newest movies. With that, this is FWP Reviews signing off. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.